Welcome to Ask the Funeral Director with Mike Voyajakis. Brought to you by Voyage Funeral Home and Crematorium. Now, here's your host, Mike Voyajakis. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Ask the Funeral Director on this Wednesday, September the 4th, 2024. I'm Brad Wilder, your host. Great to have everyone starting to join us online. I want to say hi to Kathy and Randy, who are here first and second tonight. Thank you very much for jumping on board early. We look forward to, getting to a lot of great questions tonight in our question and answer section. We've got some videos to kick off the show as well. We're going to take a look at, wanting justice for several Manitobans, Winnipeggers alike. There's been a lot that's gone on, especially in the last 48 hours. Portage in Maine was a big incident that happened. We're going to talk about all of that with some video footage to cover it all. It's all coming up right here on Ask the Funeral Director after these messages. At the Cork and Flame, we're always cooking and ready with the finest for all our customers any time of day or night. From breakfast brunch to lunch and dinner, steak and seafood to ribs and more. The Cork and Flame Fine Dining. Always fresh, with fabulous desserts and a narration of the urban landscape, plus a passion for quality food. Eat, drink, chill. Cork and Flame, 3106 Portage Avenue. There's no hurry, so sit back and relax. Welcome back. Well, it's one of those evenings we are going to get to some important topics. There's been a lot that's gone on in the criminal justice system right here in Manitoba and Winnipeg specifically. Mike Voyajakis is here. Mike, great to have you on your own program, of course.
Always good to be here, Brad.
What time is it?
It's Ask the Funeral Director time.
I almost sounded like Walter there for a second.
Jeez. I went to the Cork and Flame today for lunch.
Did you?
And met Robin and Daniel, and I had a Greek pita souvlaki with Greek salad and some fries. Wow, it was just delicious. What a lunch. And I'm still full, probably not going to have supper. If you haven't been to the Cork and Flame, go check it out. We still need to have the Cork and Flame patio party.
Yeah, we sure do.
Before winter.
We can do it in winter, too. I mean, you'll just have to shovel a patio and get it ready.
I'm going to say hi to some people, and then we'll get on with the show. It's Kathy. Tickle, tickle, tickle. Good evening, Mike and Brad, everyone. Randy.
It'd be funnier if she was on Twitch.
I know,
and
Twitch.
On Facebook.
Oh, yeah, we should say we're
on Twitch.
We're in a few channels. And last night I got to watch a show we did with Pastor John Feeks. If you didn't catch that show, it was an interesting show talking about what's happening in the world right now according to the Bible. And Pastor John was an amazing speaker, good pastor. And we're going to be doing a show with him once a month now.
We are?
On Tuesdays.
Oh, that's great.
So we're going to be doing a show once a month on Tuesdays with Pastor John Feeks. And I'm looking forward to that. So I talked to him today, and he's looking for it. Randy says, good evening, Terry Thiessen. Thank you, Mike and Brad, from Southern Alberta.
Cornwall, Ontario. Patricia's in the house. Good to have you, Patricia. Fernie Coe is here as well.
Angela?
Watching from Washington State.
Angela, I wonder if Angela's Italian from Toronto.
Pizzelli. I'm sure she is. Servidito.
Vicky Moore. Hi from Nova Scotia. Dan Ross from Ross, Manitoba. Good evening, Mike, Brad, everyone else. Hope all is well. Patricia. Hi, Brad Wilder. That's kind of a cool
Patricia.
Name, Brad Wilder.
Yeah, that's right.
Heather is on the show.
Cool.
Good evening, Mike and Brad. Debbie's on the show with us. Hi, everyone. Happy Hump Day from West K. Ding dong, ding ding ding. Oh yeah, I forgot the bells. Last night there was no bells.
Everybody kept bugging us last night. We got to have those bells on.
Good old Al Bueller, all the way from somewhere in Beausejour.
Hey, Al, you make sure to let me know if the audio goes out tonight again, okay, pal? But be a little bit nicer this time. I'm doing the best I can here. I'm a one-man show, buddy.
Way to go, Al. Al told him to wake up yesterday.
Oh, didn't he ever?
Wake up, Brad.
That was what he said on the chat, but he PM'd me, and then I was like, what?
Jeez. Barb Green, hi, Mike, Brad, everyone watching from Southern Manitoba. And Agnes, hi, Dan from Now they're bugging him. Hi, Dan
from Ross.
Hey, Gord, how's it going? Good to see you on the show. Debbie, Sue, you want to read a couple, and then we'll go to some videos?
Sure. Sue Cridland is here. Linda Shelley is on board. You're funny,
hey, look,
Brad.
our friend Kevin is on.
See, they think I'm funny, and I'm never funny. I don't even try to be funny. If you're cracking a smile, that's great. That's all I'm looking for. If you're laughing, well, you're probably laughing at the funny guy next to me.
Kevin's on the show with us.
Kevin, good to have you.
Good evening, Kevin. And, well, there's lots of people
Miguel
here tonight.
Miguel's
Miguel,
here.
all the way from Transcona. We have to pack a lunch to watch the show.
That's right.
A whole bunch of new messages. Remember, you can watch us on Rumble, Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, and X. All those channels all at once. A lot of crazy things happened in the city today.
Do we look better on YouTube or Twitch or Rumble? Where do we look better on?
I got a new haircut today. What do you think? Went to Serena's hair studio, which is my niece, and she says, "Hey, Uncle Mike, you need a new hairstyle." And I like to have my hair messy, and she goes, "No, you got to pull it frontwards. Looks much better that way." I don't know. I don't know. Yeah. You know, you got to kind of look the guy, you know?
You definitely look like that guy. I tell you what. I mean, you could try to go for the Donald Trump look.
Yeah, no kidding. So this week I did a graveside service. So I'm in the funeral home. We're doing a service for a 1-year-old boy who passed away.
That's sad.
Which was hard enough to do in the first place. And then Jenny, our receptionist and funeral director at the funeral home, says, "Mike, the pastor's not going to show up. He can't make it." I go, "Great. Who's he sending?" She says, "You." Oh. So, not even 5 minutes notice, going to Elmwood Cemetery next to the funeral home, I had to do a service for a 1-year-old at the graveside. And thank God that the words were put in my mouth to comfort the family and give them closure so they can move on and heal, as tough as it is.
That's a tough situation for anybody to be
in.
I mean,
you like to prepare for that, you know?
A minister or a pastor knows kind of what to say. He's got it well thought out. He's done it 1,000 times.
Hey, look, Josh Voyajakis is on the show, and he's in Buffalo Point, and he says, "Hey, Jeff, Heather, Mike, you still need a cowbell." "Hey, yeah. Oh, I got this. Order in the court." So a lot of crazy things happened in Winnipeg in the last 48 hours, somewhere around there. But before we talk about that, we want you to know that we're getting together at the Law Courts building, and we want justice. There's so much going on. The catch and release program is stronger than ever, and we want to end the catch and release program. We want to send a message to the judges. We want all these violent crimes to answer for the crimes that they've committed, not just be released by those rotating doors at the Law Courts building. So on the 18th at 1 o'clock, please join us. This is going to be huge. We're expecting a lot of people. You'll hear people talk, mothers talk who've lost their loved ones to murder or crimes. You'll hear other people talk. You'll hear me talk about my brother Kyriakis and how he was murdered and how I feel about that. So it is going to be a powerful event. Many people are going to show up at 1 o'clock on the 18th. Brad is going to be emceeing the whole event. So we're hoping that you'll come out and join us. It's going to be for Brody, we talked about him last week on the show, who was badly beaten by a machete, and Fiss, also an 80-year-old gentleman who was attacked that day. The crime on these streets is just out of control, and if we don't get together and unite as one and make a difference, we're not going to make a difference. So join us on that date, and we're going to talk about some things that happened in the city this week. But before we do that, we are going to play a video, and that video is going to say a lot, and then we'll talk about it afterwards.
Well, we got to give me a second to get it ready, Mikey. You're always jumping the gun here.
I believe Josh is Mike's son. Josh is certainly Mike's son. And I've tried my best to get Josh on the show. As a matter of fact, we were fishing the other day, and I did a video to talk about the show I was going to do with John Feeks, and he goes, "Dad, don't you put that video on the internet." So we didn't. Nikki Smith, I could never do your job. It's difficult. It is. And a funeral director's job is probably the hardest when you're dealing with a child. A 1-year-old. No mother is ready to bury a 1-year-old, and no mother should have to bury a 1-year-old. And it was unfortunate, but you're called to do a job, and sometimes that calling comes from a higher power, and the words are put into your mouth to comfort that family, and that's exactly what I did that day. Tonight on the show, last night was good because we got John Feeks to answer a lot of questions that people were putting on screen. So tonight, if you have a question that you'd like me to answer, please put it in the comments, and I'll get back to you, and I'll answer it for you as best as I can.
Maybe able to answer it on the show even, right?
Yeah, even on the show. Steve Bage, welcome to the show. Walter Lee. Wallace Lee.
All right, you ready to go?
Here's the video.
Let's do it.
A woman is dead after being hit by a police vehicle in a park in Osborne Village. Live in studio tonight with what we know so far is CTV's Taylor Brock. Taylor, what happened here?
Well, Marilee, police say 2 officers were giving someone a ride back to an encampment in Fort Rouge Park on River Avenue between Donald and Osborne just before 9:30 last night. Now, while driving on a path through the park, the vehicle struck the woman who was in her 30s. She was provided emergency medical care at the scene and was taken to hospital in critical condition. The woman later died from her injuries. Acting Police Chief Art Stannard says it's not uncommon for officers to drive people home when needed, and it's at their discretion which route they take to get them there.
The encampments, as you know, are on the river banks, so they're hard to get at. And so if there's a route or a path that can get you to that location, they may use it. So it's up to the IU to flush that out.
Acting Chief Stannard says the officers involved are devastated by what happened, and he offered condolences to the woman's family on behalf of the entire Winnipeg Police Service, calling the incident a tragedy.
Did police share any other details, Taylor, like what the woman was doing in the park at the time?
No, Marilee, they couldn't because the Independent Investigation Unit of Manitoba has taken over the investigation, which limits what police can say. The 2 officers involved are on leave at this time.
Well, it would be a terrible situation to be put in, hitting someone. I don't know what the police were doing they weren't on a road. They were on a side road by the looks of things. And who knows what happened, if she came out from the bushes or if you just don't really know. And you know what? No police officer or nobody wants to hit somebody and do it on purpose. Obviously, this was an accident, and unfortunately somebody died because of this accident. And those police officers are going to have to live with that the rest of their lives, go to sleep and have nightmares about it. And it doesn't matter if the person was of Aboriginal descent or white or Greek or whatever the case may be. Nobody wants to hit somebody, and nobody would do something like that on purpose. Of course, it's under investigation with the police now, and I'm sure we'll find out more details. But it got worse because they had a rally on Portage and Main today. And that rally was quite advertised by the Winnipeg Police, saying that they were going to close off Portage and Main because of the rally that was going to take place. And the rally was all about the lady that was run over by the police car. And people were not happy about it. But things got even worse. Watch this.
A protest took a dangerous turn when a car hit a cyclist and it was swarmed by a crowd. Tonight we have a shocking account of just what unfolded. Live at the scene tonight with all the details for us is CTV's Danton Unger. Danton, walk us through what happened there.
Well, Marilee, earlier today, protesters had blocked off the intersection here at Portage and Main to bring attention to the death of a woman killed when she was hit by a police car earlier this week. But the protest took a chaotic turn when a driver along this stretch of road here tried to drive through the protest, hitting one of them in the process. And as you said, Marilee, pandemonium broke loose. Chaos erupted at this protest on Portage and Main Wednesday. Video captured by CTV News on the scene appears to show the driver of this car trying to drive through protesters who blocked the intersection, hitting one cyclist in the process before being swarmed.
I was hit by the car. I stepped out of the way before he could do any more damage.
The cyclist, who does not want to be identified by name, tells CTV News their bike was run over as the driver sped away, but the car was quickly stopped by protesters, some of whom jumped on top of it, smashing in the windshield and trying to grab the driver.
Enough!
Others had to intervene, breaking up the confrontation before police arrived.
There have been so many people dying on the streets in Winnipeg this summer.
The protest was meant to bring attention to the death of a woman struck and killed by a police cruiser earlier this week.
It breaks my heart that my sister's gone. She was the sweetest, kindest person there is out there.
Lori Bateman says her sister Tammy was staying at a homeless encampment in Fort Rouge Park when she was hit by a police car Monday evening and died in hospital.
I'm still in shock about this. It disgusts me, and I'm pissed off and I'm upset.
Winnipeg police say officers were driving through the park to drop someone off at the encampment when they hit Tammy.
On behalf of the whole membership of the Winnipeg Police Service, I want to offer my condolences and thoughts to the family, her friends, her community.
I want them accountable for what they did to my sister.
The march continued down Main Street to the Winnipeg Police headquarters, where protesters lit a sacred fire for Tammy and called for an external investigation into her death.
Her sister did not die in vain, and we will get justice.
The Independent Investigation Unit of Manitoba is investigating Tammy Bateman's death. A vigil is planned for Tammy later tonight at 7 p.m. at Fort Rouge Park. We'll have more details about that vigil coming up on our newscast at 11:30 tonight.
Denton?
Well, there you have it, Mike. That's another
CTV just reported real news.
They did. They truly did.
You know, you never want to drive through a protest. Oh, my God, how dangerous is that? Like, that person driving that car must have been terrified. But the scene is terrifying in general. You see the bike underneath the car and being dragged.
Yeah.
And that could have been the person. And wow, what a scary situation.
I'm not trying to criticize anything. I'm definitely making a comment here, but I noticed that the girl who was hit on the bike was sitting on the edge of the curb, and she was in tears and crying. I think it was from shock there. But then when she got on camera, she was a very strong-willed individual who kind of had a different personality all of a sudden. So
a little bit of fire under her skin.
Yeah. I mean, obviously she didn't get injured, and that's a good thing. So
Remedy Max says prayers and love to Tammy's family and friends. May she rest in eternal peace. And exactly. And a question people have right off the top is, who's going to pay for her funeral? Is it going to be the Winnipeg Police Force? Right. Here's what happens. When somebody's hit in a motor vehicle accident, Manitoba Public Insurance takes care of money to pay for her funeral arrangements. So her funeral arrangements will be covered through Manitoba Public Insurance being struck by a vehicle. And whatever happens to that police officer, he'll have to live with the fact that he killed somebody.
Pretty sure he's sitting at home tonight thinking about that heavily.
And like I say, accidents are accidents. They happen. You don't know. You don't know how fast they were going. You don't know all the things.
It was nighttime too, right?
It was nighttime, and you know, I mean, I've had people walk out in front of my car. You know, when I'm driving through Buffalo Point, for example, and they just walk out, and you know, if you don't see them or swerve, you're going to hit them.
Yeah.
So it
all happens in a split second,
fast second, and terrible situation for the police officer, and a tragic situation.
You're looking this way, they come out that way. Yeah, you know, things happen.
Al Bueller
Sad day.
has to watch his language. We're gonna.
Yeah, we don't want to ban you, Al.
Come on, Al.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a terrible situation, but it is what it is, and you got to live with it. This video is going to make you laugh. There's going to be a few F-bombs in the video, and we just told Al not to swear, but you're going to laugh, and you're probably going to watch this a few times over. I'd love to see the comments. Now, this is at this gentleman's funeral, so listen and get ready to laugh because it's funny.
You got to pay attention to the audio. To the words. You got to pay attention to the audio. Be very diligent on the audio. Here we go, everybody.
Go ahead, anyway.
Hello? 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 Let me out! Where the fuck am I? Hello? Hello? Let me out the fucking bag in here! Where the fuck am I? I got that police back in here! Let me out! Hello! Hello! Stop the mask! Stop, I can hear you! Hello! Hello! Please! Hello! Who's there? Hello? He's showing me I'm in the box. No, I'm fucking front of you. I'm there. You gotta hear that. Hello again. Hello. I just called to say goodbye. I'm going to die. I'm trying to say hello again.
You can't help but laugh as many times as you see that. Can you imagine it happening at a funeral? You're at a funeral, everyone's standing in line, and then they play a video that the guy recorded prior to the funeral, and everybody laughed at the graveside, including the priest who was there.
As soon as you leave tonight, I'm going in my studio and I'm going to make myself
make your
make
video
my own. Yeah, make my own.
That's funny.
That's very funny. Oh, so much to get to yet. We have got to get to our questions and answers, but Al Bueller just wants to apologize to everybody. Me so bad. I'll stand in the corner and think about the word I used and said in the comments. He won't do that again. He's crying in the corner. He'll be okay, though.
Viola says, hello from Freedom Reunion Cottage in Lac du Bonny. Freedom Reunion this Friday. PM me for details. Interesting. Josh, what's he saying?
Didn't you get your VIP invite?
No, she didn't invite me. Viola said, Mike, you're not invited. You're a troublemaker. We don't want you at the event. You're probably going to turn on your camera and start recording and saying so. You got an invite?
I got one.
Order in this court. Dad, whatever happened to that creepy doll you guys had?
Oh, little JT.
Wait, I'll be right back. Can you take it from here for a minute?
I can try. I can try.
Get the camera off me. You got no pants on?
I don't worry. Story of his life. He always shows up with no pants on here. So we're going to get to some questions and answers tonight. Brittany's got a couple of questions. I think Wamba's coming on the show with a question or two. You might have a question as well. Put it in the comments. We're going to try to get to it in just a couple of minutes. Good evening from Oak Bank, Christina says. Good evening, Christina. Mike looks good, like he has a fresh haircut. Looks good. Good evening, everyone. Thanks, Christine. Okay, so let us talk. Josh wants to know I shouldn't have said anything. You're right, Josh. You shouldn't have said anything because now the doll has returned. Wait, there it is. Little JT.
There's JT. Stop abusing the doll.
I hate that doll.
Well, anyways, JT is part of our show now. No different than the... here, JT, ring the bell. JT ringing the bell there.
Do you know what that looks like on camera?
Oh, my God. Oh, jeez.
We're going to have to put Jag meat. We're going to have to get a mini Jag meat next.
It would be fun to have a... How many people would come to the Cork and Flame for Ask the Funeral Director reunion? Would you come out? Let us know if you did. The last one we did was amazing. A lot of people... Brad, don't hurt JT, Heather says.
Oh, no?
Look, he's got feet, legs, and the whole works. My brother last time... my brother
little
Pete,
booties on.
My brother Pete said last time, get rid of the doll. You look like a...
Order in this country.
Boy.
Order in this country.
Okay, stop hitting the guy. Okay, JT, you got to go home now. See ya.
There you go. He flies, too. And he doesn't even take a jet.
Anyways, the Cork and Flame would be a fun thing. If we get enough responses, we'll have a reunion at the Cork and Flame. Get everyone there just before winter patio party. We'll have some live entertainment for you. Do a live edition of Ask the Funeral Director.
What's that? You're picking up everybody's tab?
Yeah, of course. Tab? What's that? Bread tabs? We'll get into some questions on Ask the Funeral Director. If you didn't check out yesterday's show with Pastor John, it was John Feeks. It was a great show. Check it out. John is a really good pastor and very knowledgeable and has a bachelor in religion, which was really cool. I thought I could whip out verses from the Bible.
He's a very smart man.
That guy was whipping them out like there was no tomorrow.
8.6, 8.5.
So I got tickets to the...
Look at that.
Listen,
he never even touched his Bible last night once.
I got tickets to the Saskatchewan game this weekend. You
do?
So yeah.
Is that the Banjo Bowl?
The Banjo Bowl. So looking forward to that.
You got a banjo?
Got a bowl.
Why don't you grab a drum and pound a drum?
Jay thinks he's going to be the next prime minister.
Sure.
So Jag and Trudeau, their love affair has seemed to be on hold, and they seem to be fighting at this time.
Yeah, don't put all your cards in one basket.
I don't know if it's an actual family feud or if they're going to get together and make up. But in the meantime, we're going to go to Ask the Funeral Director and answer some questions.
They're not going to make up.
Bachelor of Theology.
They're not going to make up. All right, how happy is too happy, Mike, to be around someone who's grieving? Can I be happy when someone's grieving?
So I think that's the problem with people. People get around somebody who's...
Hey, come on in! Come on into the funeral. It's going to be a great time today.
I think people see somebody who's lost a loved one, and I'll use my brother for example, and people treat you different. You know, and they seem to be somber around you and watching what they say.
Get my funeral on!
But it's okay to still laugh and joke around and bring up memories that you have with the person who passed away and share a story and make the loved one smile and laugh and remember that story with you. So there's nothing wrong with being yourself around somebody who's lost a loved one. And I think people expect that. I think people expect you to just be yourself and sure, offer your condolences and just be normal and share stories and have fun and just try to give that person hope, you know, because sometimes I think what really bothers me about funerals, and you all need to know this because it's so true. So somebody loses a loved one and everyone is there for that funeral and everyone's there the day before and the day after and maybe a couple days after that. But the terrible thing is within a week, everyone's gone. And now it's old news. And the family is left alone to mourn. There's no more flowers coming. There's no more food coming. There's no more people visiting. And most people say this, I got to come by your house and hang out with you. I got to take you out for lunch. We need to see each other again. And that just doesn't happen. And it's terrible. So if you know somebody who's lost a loved one, spend time with that person. Phone them a week later, a month later. Take them out for coffee. Go to their house and bring them flowers or just a lunch or something. Be compassionate. And that's when you need compassion the most. When somebody's grieving and then they're doing it alone because nobody's there.
So that would lead to a question.
What's the question?
Maybe you do, maybe you don't. I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't put you on the spot, but do you...
Brad, you could put me on the spot.
Do you go back and check up on your customers then?
Check up on my customers? We do. So it's called aftercare. So we have an aftercare program where we stay in touch with people who've lost loved ones and phone them and ask them how the funeral went and, if they could give us any feedback or...
Just a week later, a day later, or a month later?
Something we do on purpose is after the funeral, we keep the folder so we can have contact with the family again. So then the family comes to the funeral home where they're going to pick up the folder with their death certificates and their Canada pension forms and surviving spouse forms. And that gives us time to just talk with the family and ask the family how things went and how everything was and if there's anything else we could do for them. And then we ask them if they want follow-up. And sometimes we'll send pastors to their house or people just to talk to them. So aftercare is so important. And it's important for you too. When you have a family member that loses a loved one, that aftercare of being in touch and staying in touch is so important. Flowers aren't only for the day of the funeral.
I'm going to need some cork and flame steak bites.
Steak bites.
Just saying.
No problem, Brad. Steak bites are always good for you. The people just hang around certain members of the family. Now, Lori says, you're right, Mike.
Thanks, Brittany, for that last question. Our next question comes from none other than Sue. She says, my question is, how does a funeral home assign bodies to each funeral director? How many can they do in one day? And when you do a removal of a body, do you embalm the body right away?
Hey, you think you could have maybe broke that up a little bit instead of just throwing that big, huge question at me? So here's how it works. So we when a family phones the funeral home, it's usually the day before or the day of, and they say, we need to come in and make funeral arrangements. And then the next director who's available would take that call and sit with the family. So as a funeral director, you're doing a lot on the average day. You're sitting with sometimes 4 or 5 families I sit with. And sometimes you're all doing removals in between or heading to the crematorium and doing a cremation. So when you're a funeral director, there's so much to the job. It's just not one of these jobs where you sit around and do one thing. Brad's been working at the funeral home lately, helping me and getting used to funeral service, and it makes the show a lot easier. And he knows what I'm talking about. You're always busy, and then you get a different perspective on life when you're a funeral director. And there's everything from embalming that takes place, and usually when we take the person into our care, we have to meet with the family first. We don't do a cremation until we meet with the family, and we don't do an embalming until we meet with the family. So not everybody is embalmed. It's only embalmed when we get permission to embalm. So yeah, the way it works with getting a family, some people phone up and they say, hey, I want Mike Voyajakis to do my arrangements. So then we set up the appointment with Mike Voyajakis, or
don't be calling and asking for Brad. I don't do funeral arrangements.
Phone a funeral home and say, yeah, you'd like to do funeral arrangements with Brad.
No, do not.
Eric says, sadly, Mike, it's a sign of the times, especially after COVID. Folks don't want to connect anymore. And something else I found out that's a sign of the times, Eric, is funeral services have changed.
Yeah.
Like you saw, people walking in with baseball caps on, total lack of respect, people walking in with their Tim Hortons coffees and their 7-Eleven Slurpees. And it drives me freaking crazy.
Cell phones on.
It's a funeral service. Whatever happened to respect? The respect for that loved one that's passed away and for the family.
Respect for the dead, right?
Yeah, and people talking on their phones and people coming in shorts. And I remember when I got into funeral service in 1998, it was different even back then, where people were wearing, dress shirts and dress pants and, dress shoes, coming in, being very respectful, not walking in with coffees. But I think it's so rude, as Heather just said, for families to see that. And, there's somebody up there speaking like the pastor, and you're hearing some guy slurping on his Slurpee. And we've put signs up already, Leona, saying, no, don't bring your coffees into the chapel. Don't bring food in the chapel. And somehow they get them in, And at one time, somebody even brought a burger and fries and was sitting at the back having a burger and fries. I walked up to that person and I said, look, this is totally disrespectful. I'm going to ask you to leave the chapel. And I did. And I have no problem telling people to take off their hats. I have no problem telling people, don't bring drinks in here. If you need water, that's fine. But respect is out the window, that's for sure.
Newsflash, there's COVID in St. Boniface Hospital today. Bah ha 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 ha.
Oh, let me do that. What happened?
I don't know. You hit a button.
Should I just hit this button here?
Yeah, just hit the X there.
Oh, look, Jeff's on the phone. Wow, okay. There we go.
But listen, we have to take this seriously.
It's simple. I'm going to give you my perspective on something here.
Okay, that's what I was hoping for.
So I don't mind, and I know some people will get offended with this, but I don't mind people wearing masks in the hospital. Because there's a lot of people sick with a lot of different viruses and airborne pathogens and bad bacteria and all that kind of stuff. So in the hospital, sometimes I think it's a good thing, because even the nurses and doctors go from patient to patient to patient. But if this is going to be another monkeypox or COVID thing, let me tell you, this is the time we need to unite and put a stop to this. I already see people at your average store, the employee behind the counter wearing a mask. I went into a Canadian Tire the other day, and almost all the employees were wearing masks. And I said to one of the guys, I go, why are you wearing a mask? I don't get it. Oh, I don't want to get sick. And I said, well, you're going to get sick wearing that mask, and you take it off, then you breathe in everything that you're not supposed to be breathing in. So you know what? Whatever happens this time around, let's bond together and let's make a difference. If we don't, it's going to be a terrible winter.
I got you covered. I got you covered right here.
Are you gonna give me my?
I got the syringe right here.
Okay.
I got the vial coming by next Wednesday.
Are you gonna give me the injection?
By next Wednesday, we are gonna vaccinate each other on the show.
Are we?
For monkeypox. I guarantee it. By next Wednesday night on the show, live, we are gonna vaccinate each other for monkeypox, and you're gonna enjoy it, because I tell you what, it's nothing better than being involved.
I just can't wait.
Because it all works and it's all effective.
It's gonna be an interesting show if we're going to get vaccinated together on the show.
They're already sick in the head. I think she was.
Why were there UN vehicles in Winkler today? After Carl.
Carl
grabs. He always gets the
short
end of the stick.
Yeah, that's too funny.
Okay, let's go.
I know he's watching tonight, so
hey, Carl,
maybe chiming in.
Carl, do you have a UN vehicles chasing you? Come on, man, get in the comments and let us know. This is a story. We need to bring you on live. You need to tell us about what happened.
We're breaking this. Why are you not wearing a mask? Al Bueller wants to know, Brad. I don't know. Maybe I am.
I would have to rip it off him like a bra.
I don't really look like this.
Next
okay,
question.
Next
there,
question. You ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Cynthia says, I have questions about preparing the body for viewing. The main question is, how do you style their hair? My mother looked beautiful, like she had been in a salon.
So
is
something
it styled while the body is reclining or sitting up? How do you do that?
Something you don't know about me, Brad. I've got the talent. You know, I could be a hairdresser. I could be a cosmetologist guy. I could do all kinds of things to make you look good. So the good thing about a funeral director is, and we joke about this all the time.
I'm glad you're a funeral director and not a hairdresser.
Yeah,
just saying.
I could do a good job on your hair.
I bet you could.
You know, the good thing about it is what we do is when somebody is getting their hair done through the funeral home, we do the hair. The embalmers do the hair, and Mike McIver and myself, we specialize in that kind of stuff. And we only get to do the front part of the hair, just the front part, because the rest is in the pillow. So I got many jobs. You know what I'm saying? It's a fun. I love doing hair and I love doing cosmetics, and I love taking a person who comes in the funeral home who's looking pretty rough and making them look very presentable for their family so they can have some type of closure.
Do you attach the toupee as well?
The toupee, I put some toupee on once in a while, and I make the person look nice.
Nice accent, Mike.
So we people come to the funeral home all the time, like friends of mine. They go, "Hey man, can you do up my tie?" And I say, "Well, you got to lie down," because we can put ties together like nothing with somebody.
But not the normal way. Like you standing there looking at
how do you do that? It's person's got to be lying down. That's what I'm used to.
All right, next question's coming from Danielle. She says, my mom passed away in a hospital gown. They gave, all of her clothing to me, and these were the clothes that she was supposed to wear prior to being picked up by the funeral home. Now, I want to know, she says, was she taken to the funeral home in the hospital gown, or was she cremated completely naked? And does it vary by place to place? What's the normal practice on that, Mike?
So normal practice is we go into care homes a lot of times, and the person has been dressed already by the family, or the nurses at the care home have been directed to dress their loved one prior to us taking that person into our care. So we usually take the person as they are from the hospital or the care home directly to the crematorium. So sometimes there'll be some clothing sitting there, but the care home staff or hospital staff hasn't given it to us. So then we don't dress the person. But if a family came up to us and said, we'd like mom to be dressed in her pajamas prior to cremation, then we would do that and honor their wishes. But normally what happens is our policy is once the cremation certificate is signed, we go directly from the hospital place of death directly to the crematorium where cremation has taken place. And you have seen it. I've asked Brad if he would come and do some removals with me. That means taking bodies into our care from and Brad's, Mike, I don't think that's my thing.
No.
But he'll help on funerals. And last week, Brad was in the back, tears in his eyes.
What's that jelly you put underneath?
Getting emotional.
I might do it then.
It's a tough job to do that. Viola says, I am a hairdresser. Do you have a job for me?
First smell, it's dead guy. No thanks. No, can't.
So it's an art to do what we do, right? To make a person look. I know Brad has seen some work that I've done.
Yeah.
Where a person comes in and looks very, very rough, and even myself sometimes I look at that person going, "Oh my God, what am I going to do?"
I'll let Mike touch me up tonight.
Yeah, look how Brad looks. Looks amazing. Just a little bit of cosmetics.
Can't even tell I've got 5 o'clock shadow.
You'd never know he's wearing lipstick.
Oh man!
Next question.
I could have so much fun with that. I just have to bite my tongue right now. I'm not going to take it there. How do you prepare a body for a plane ride to fly out of state for a viewing? Embalming, body bag, cardboard box. What do you do to send them across the state lines?
So that's a really good question for people that are sending their loved ones overseas or to the States, wherever. So a body 100% has to be embalmed to be shipped outside of the province of Manitoba. The good thing about that is we are a licensed shipping agency at our funeral home. So we've been through the investigation, a 2-year investigation.
UPS? FedEx? What?
No, we're just a licensed shipping company for the airlines.
Okay.
So that means we've been investigated. They've gone through us with a fine-tooth comb kind of thing.
Yeah.
And they've come to our funeral home, investigated our mortuary areas, investigated our paperwork and how we do things. And finally, we got a license to be able to ship bodies anywhere in the world. So what that means is when we go to the airport, you don't have to open up the casket. That casket is sealed by us. And because we have our license to ship, it goes from what we do. So everything is recorded when you're shipping a body. Everything in the morgue is recorded. The casket has to stay under your camera the whole night if it's in the morgue. The casket's got to be under camera pretty much the whole time. And then when we take the casket and place it in the van, that's also recorded. And then that casket is sealed by us. So, they're worried about all these things that take place on airplanes now since 9/11. And it's been proven all around the world that some funeral homes aren't so honest and put things in caskets like guns and drugs and that kind of stuff. So,
well, I was going to ask you. I've got an uncle in Colombia. I wanted to,
Let's not talk about your uncle from Colombia on this show. So, yeah, shipping is expensive, but your loved one definitely has to be embalmed. There's a shipping container that we have. The casket goes into another container that's an air tray. So there's lots to do when it comes to shipping a body.
And not every company can do that, right? You have to be
so you have to be a licensed certified shipper, or you got to use McKinnon and Bowes in Toronto, for example.
Is there a few here in Winnipeg?
There's two of us, all in Manitoba, and I'm one of them.
Well,
so
great.
I'm proud that we have that, and a lot of families come to us because we're such a compassionate and caring funeral home. If you haven't experienced the services of Voyage, you should, because it is an award-winning funeral home. We definitely take care of your loved one as we would our own. Compassion, respect, honor, and most of all, the truth is what you get when you come to Voyage. And how many people can say they have an award-winning funeral home?
Not many. There's lots out there that don't have the morals and the character and the...
And we see that every day
follow through.
When families go to another funeral home and they get taken advantage of. And then I almost want to say, I told you so.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. How do you prepare a family for the grief and hard times following a death? Wamba wants to know. And Wamba's an individual who speaks.
Yeah, so
what's that job that he does?
He's a pastor.
He's a pastor,
yeah.
Okay.
So even pastors have questions, and they're going through the emotions when they lose a loved one themselves, right? So they're seeing everything take place behind the scenes.
Right.
So when you're a pastor or a family member, you don't see what goes on behind the scenes. Mm-hmm. So his question was, go back to that question again. I just want to look at quickly to answer it properly. How do you prepare a family so you never can prepare a family for grief. Grief is something you need to go through. It's a road that you need to travel. And some people grieve for a short period of time, and other people grieve until they die. And there's not a time where you could say to somebody, hey, snap out of it. It's been a year. Wake up. It's not the way it works.
It doesn't happen that way, does it?
It doesn't work that way. So you let somebody go through the motions, and you let somebody grieve. And I think I talked about this the other day.
It's a mental state, right?
It's a mental state. I was going to the lake the other day for a day. And I passed by Glen Eden Cemetery. That's where my brother and dad are. And I instantly had tears in my eyes thinking, how unfair. My brother's sitting in the grave, and I'm going to the lake. And I just cried for about 10 minutes. And there's things that touch my heart, and people say, well, you must be strong, Mike. I mean, you've been through it all. Like, you probably have a heart of, solid steel. But that's not the way it works. When you're grieving, there's certain things that touch your heart and bring tears to your eyes. And you can't help but to, even though you shouldn't feel sorry for the person that died, because they're off to a better place than we'll ever be here on earth. But sometimes those tears just run because it hurts. And my brother's death has hurt me really bad. And when my brother died, I know a piece of me died with him. And you get emotional sometimes. You get tears running down your eyes, and you just hope that there'd be justice. And that's why I want to take part in We want justice.
Try working in the funeral business in the first couple of weeks. You're gonna see all that happen to yourself. Your emotional roller coaster ride is.
And Brad went through that. So Brad
did.
came to the funeral home, and the first one he did was a tough one for him. And he's seen family members crying and grieving. And
I've seen funerals. I've been to lots of funerals, but it really is something different when you start to see others grieving at a time when you're working, and you start to attribute it to your own family and friends, and you go, well, wait a minute.
And that's the thing, right? When you have to relate that to your own family, a family member dies, and all of a sudden you're on that end.
Something that happened during that time that I didn't tell you about, and I'll expose it on the show here, but 2 of my college roommates both died suddenly in 2023, and I found out the day that I was really coming to that first funeral. So when I got there, I was filled with anger that they had passed on, and again, suddenly means, well, you know what that means by now. You guys are smart enough to know that.
You know what I mean?
Suddenly means something.
Kubler-Ross wrote a book on death and dying, and it talks about the 5 stages of death and dying, and one of them is anger.
Yeah.
And the final one is acceptance, where you can finally accept that death. And usually when you walk into the funeral home and you're sitting with the funeral director, the reality kicks in.
Anything that has to do with the last 3 years is not acceptable, period, at this point in my lifetime, and I'm sure a lot of you out there feel the same way. And I think we've all been affected by that in a way that it's really tough to express how we really feel. Anger is the first and foremost thing because, well, we're in the fight, and we're not going to stop. We're going to make sure that the right messaging gets going forward, and do not comply. That would be my messaging to you as you move forward. And I'm not saying that's right for everybody. No. That's right for my situation, maybe my own family, but I don't intend on participating, and that's just the way it's going to be.
Brother, let me tell you, the last 2 years has put a huge dent in my heart. When I saw families crying and feeling the pain of not being able to say goodbye to their loved one, and so many people died alone. And one of my biggest hurts in life is to see somebody die alone. Nobody should ever die alone.
That's correct.
And, when they took that right away from families to say their final goodbyes and to the final hug and
my father-in-law, Mike. Yeah. Yes, I understand.
So there you go. Stuff that gives you closure. And we can never allow this to happen in this world again. It just should not happen. We need to put a stop to this. When doctors say, oh, you can't go in there because of this Mickey Mouse new, all the life we've lived, there's been diseases, there's been sicknesses, and never have they did this. So that they got something big planned for us in 2030, and they're trying to get control, and they did get control. The sad thing about this is that 70% of the people will probably comply, put on their masks, and do what they did before, which hurts everyone. So if you have friends who are going to comply, talk with them. Tell them what's going on in the world. Tell them what we need to do to make a difference. Tell them where the world is going and what they're planning.
That's really hard for some people, and we both understand that. We have to be cautious and choose our words accordingly. I always like to say, bring the proof, because without the proof, your words aren't going to be as strong.
Hey, Brad, the proof is in the pudding, man. I mean, Fauci himself went on there and he said he lied. Fauci told people that he lied. He told people, the 6-foot distancing thing. I lied about that.
Mike, mainstream media didn't cover that everywhere, especially
I know, but
Canadian.
The thing is, people could go find that, and I know a lot of people don't have a clue.
And I'm trying to say that you take that with you when you're going to show your neighbor, when you're going to show your relative, when you're going to have that discussion. Pull out your phone. Show them that you got that saved somewhere, and you can show them that proof does exist and that it's there.
Debbie says, if they try to pull this off again... Ring that bell. Don't listen to them.
Correct.
So many people don't have a clue what's going on, and that's the bottom line.
Linda, next question up, says, how much opportunity should you give a dying person to express what they're going through and feeling deep down in their heart?
Linda, that's a tremendous question. And a lot of people don't do that. You have to give that person the time and the space to talk about what's hurting them in their hearts, what they need to get out. I think before we die, we all need to get something out of our system, whether it's to say sorry to somebody, whether it's to ask for forgiveness to somebody, whether it's just to say talk about the pain that they're going through and the suffering that they're going through, and just talk about life in general. You always need to give people, loved ones, time to get that out, to get that weight off of their chest.
That's right.
And put that weight on another shoulder that'll listen. And sometimes when somebody's on their deathbed, stage 4 cancer, in palliative care, in hospice somewhere, what they need more than anything else is a set of ears. Somebody who will sit there and listen and care.
Right.
And show them love. That's all you can do. So I think it's really important to do that, to allow that person to get their grief out of their system, because everybody's got some type of anger tucked away.
It's tough conversations, aren't they?
They are tough conversations, but they're real. What we talk about on this show is very real. Like I said, behind the scenes, people don't see what goes on. And I see what goes on every day. I've been doing this for 26 years now, and I've been through it almost all, right? But even for me, some things are shocking because they're totally new experiences. Like what I'm seeing now in 2024, the division amongst families, which was caused from COVID. Brad, COVID caused a lot of problems in a lot of families.
Absolutely.
And those problems carried on, and forgiveness never came for some families.
Very
I'm
true.
sorry never came for some families. It's so easy to say the word, I'm sorry. And it takes a man to do that. If you did something wrong, just say, hey, man, I'm sorry. I was out of line. Forgive me for what I did. But some people just don't have it in them to say that. And it's a word that needs to be talked about more and more.
I use it all the time. I use it weekly sometimes. I do make mistakes. I do feel sorry for my mistakes, and I do apologize.
Do you think,
heartfelt?
Brad, do you think, listen.
Well, I'm listening.
Do you think since you've started this show with me and start working on it, that it's kind of changed your life a little bit and opened your eyes to different things?
Yeah, you know what I've seen.
Made you more caring, more compassionate?
100%. I think the funeral home has done that. I think that it hits the heartstrings and it tugs on them quite heavily, and you start to consider how you've acted and how you've conducted some of your relationships and some of the things that you've said along the way that have been very hurtful. And obviously, being a broadcaster, I'm pretty good at the old twisting of the tongue and making things bite a whole lot more.
You're a broadcaster?
Not anymore.
Next question there, Brad.
Dennis says, just curious what it costs per day to keep a person on ice until a funeral service.
I wonder if people really think. I wonder if people.
Is that a Greek term or is that an Italian term? You're going to keep them on ice.
What do you think? It's the mafia? We put the people on ice, put them in the trunk or something? That's not the way it works. We don't put people on ice. There's no such thing as putting a person on ice. Maybe that's just the saying. But what happens is we place a person in a cooler, and we hold them in a cooler until the date that we embalm or the date cremation takes place. Because some people want us to hold on. A new thing that's been happening a lot lately is, hey, my loved one did not want to be cremated for 3 days. So a lot of people think that they're going to come back to life. And they say, don't cremate my loved one for 3 days.
Just in case.
Well, I can assure you, once we get somebody from the hospital, they are 100% deceased. It's not like countries like Greece, for example, where the person is brought from the hospital to the house, where they do the viewing in the house, and the person is buried the next day. So no embalming takes place. Nobody's touched the body other than maybe close the eyes and the mouth, and everything is 100% natural. So there I could see a person getting up and walking away. Their heartbeat's so shallow that you can barely tell that they're alive, and they're planning a funeral. And there's been lots of stories where people get up and walk away. Can you imagine waking up in a morgue, looking around with all these dead? You think you'd be scared?
Can you imagine waking up and it's all fire around you?
Fernie says, I think the jab has affected common sense in some people. Yeah, I would have to agree with you on that. I had 2 sisters due in September 22nd, and the other one January 23rd, 4 months apart. Wow. See what I mean? Times are tough for a lot of people.
Things are changing.
Another question, Brad.
Are you sure?
I'm ready.
Silver says, sounds like a game show.
Silver.
My father is in Riverview Health Center facing the end of life. He presently has no will. He has a common law partner who's been living with him for 5 years and 3 children. Who would be in charge of making arrangements at the time of his passing, obviously with no will?
Silver, that's a cool name. So when a person is in a hospital and doesn't have a will, if you're listening to the show tonight, I've said it a million times, now it's 1,000,001. Get yourself a will. one of the most important things you could do for your family. It's a gift of love. It really is. We have a free will kit on our website, voyagefuneralhomes.com. Download it, fill it out. It comes with a 5-in-1. It's a 5-in-1 will package. It also comes with a Wishes and Memories book. It is a gift of life. So do yourself a favor, fill that out. So what happens in this case here, the person would like to pre-plan my... Oh, go to the other one behind that, Brad. I was talking about something that I got off you want to go back with the will. Yeah. So if you don't have a... I'm losing it. Wake up, Mike.
Wake up, Mike.
So if you...
Kidding.
If you don't have a will, get a will. And in this case here, if you have a common law wife, which was the case here,
right?
The common law wife overrides the children. So she's common law. If she's common law 6 months or more, she's legally his next of kin.
You know, I had a friend who went through that and he lost everything.
Yeah. So if you don't have a will and you're living with somebody who's common law with you,
she didn't give up nothing.
Well, a lot of people don't give up anything. I dealt with a family this last week where she told the kids, "Get lost, all of you. You're not getting anything. Your mom left everything to me." And she was only a neighbor in an apartment block.
Oh, man.
So she basically told the kids to leave the funeral home, leave the office. She was the executor. Here's a copy of the will. Get lost. Unfortunately, that's the law when it comes to funeral service. If you've made a will, that person who has the will has the legal right to push your family aside and do what they need to do and follow the will, whatever the wishes are of that person.
Take this very seriously.
Take it seriously, because a lot of people have lost a lot of things, including families that have broken up and relationships that have been destroyed for life because there wasn't a will in place. And people get involved, like the public trustee, for example, and Viola just put that on there, and it becomes a mess when a public trustee gets involved. Not only that, they're taking a percentage each month that they're taking care of your case or your file.
Yeah, estate,
so
right? Yep.
It's crazy.
All right,
Josh is back again. Wow, he's actually watching a full show.
Joan says, "I would like to pre-plan my final arrangements with Voyage Funeral Home. What happens if you go broke, though, Mike? Sell your business, Mike, or have a fire? What goes on with her money?"
Well, what happens with your money is, so Voyage Funeral Home has 5 locations. So I think we're good because we're here to stay. And you never know, but a fire happens or life changes, people lose money. And in one case, people lost a whole whack of money in funeral service because their money didn't go to the right place. So when you pre-plan your funeral with a Voyage Funeral Home, your money gets put into an insurance fund.
I thought it went into a mattress. You said it went into a mattress.
Hey, don't tell anybody. We're on the show.
Sorry.
People are going to be robbing me, going on my bed under the mattress. What's wrong with you? What happens is your money you never make a check out to the funeral home. You never give your visa to the funeral home. It's sent to True Stage, which is the life insurance company we use. And we have no access to that money whatsoever.
No, it's all tied up with the lawyers, right?
No, it's an insurance fund. So like every insurance policy, there is a beneficiary. So we become the beneficiary of that policy. The only time that we have access to that policy is upon your death and us providing a death certificate to the insurance company saying we want to get paid out. There's been a death. So your money is safe with Voyage. Never make a check payable to the funeral home directly because they're going to take your money and you're not going to get it back. Gone.
So Mike would direct you accordingly once you show up and you're going to make all that happen. He'll make sure that your money goes to the right place and that you're solid.
Did you put something in those cookies that I had today? Because I'm feeling a little...
You getting on the show now?
Wired.
You ready to keep going another hour or what?
I go 2 hours.
2 hours.
No problem. Hey, Josh, what do you think of my haircut? Come on, son, tell me the truth. Dad.
Somebody said you're funny now. Well, we're having a good night, I guess.
Funny night.
All right.
You know, you watching a funeral director show doesn't have to be sad, and you know,
it's a good thing.
You don't have to cry. It should be fun where you talk about death and talk about death with your families, and you know, it'll make things easier when you die. It's so important to know what your loved ones' wishes are. That's when funeral homes take advantage of you the most, because you don't know what your loved one walks, and you walk in there and you're all confused. But if you know, because Dad said to you, I want to be cremated, I don't want a service, I want things simple, you don't even have to have a funeral service. You can do a simple cremation, have a celebration of life in your backyard. You know? Nothing is normal these days. Do what you want. Funeral homes are not there to tell you what to do. We're there to guide you. and protect you. That's what a funeral director is supposed to do.
So just go back up a bit. There were some good comments there. One of them was you need some blonde highlights in your hair like you had before, Leona Gorshinsky says.
Hey, what are you talking about? I never had no blonde highlights. This is natural. I don't dye my hair. It's not just me, man.
You mentioned Silver's name. It does remind me of the top of your head.
Shut up, Brad. It's these lights in the studio. Ferdy says, what happens if the insurance company goes bankrupt? Well, the chance of an insurance company going bankrupt is very slim.
In this day and age, though, anything can happen. Banks are going under.
No. Insurance companies are backed by more insurance and more insurance. It's really hard for an insurance company to go broke.
Really, eh?
Really. Your money is safer in insurance funds than it is in a bank.
Well, that's good to know. That's good to know. My father has arrangements with a large corporate funeral home. Is it possible to transfer my dad's pre-arrangements and funds to Voyage Funeral Home, Margaret says.
Hey, Margaret, come on down.
I would imagine you can.
If you transfer your pre-plan to Voyage, if you're pre-planned somewhere else, it is going to be 100% benefit to your family because we've written checks back to families for $10,000, $5,000, $2,000. So let's just say you paid $7,500 for cremation at one of these other funeral homes, and you come to Voyage and our price is only $1,600 for cremation. We refund you the rest of the money. You get the same thing that you were going to get at the other funeral home. The only difference is you get it for a lot less. People go, you must be missing something. You're cutting something out. There's something not right. Your price is too low. No, what it is we're a family-run funeral home, and we believe in treating your loved one as we would our own and giving back to the community. So the more you support a family-run funeral home like ours, the more we can give back and help families. And you don't have to become a billionaire overnight. You know, if you serve families and you're doing the right thing, you're going to make money. That's part of your job. And if you do it right, people are going to keep coming back. Two ways of building a business, strong foundation and a weak foundation. And we built a strong foundation in our funeral home. And families are coming back, and we're serving them a second time, a third time, a fourth time.
It's generational, isn't it?
Yeah, and what you got to be careful about, too, and it's another important topic. Look at that, almost 10:01. But Brad's not going to stop me because I'm not going away.
Nope, not yet.
I'm thankful my husband and I made our arrangements with Voyage. Look,
Joyce.
She's telling people. So another thing you need to watch for, please watch for this. It's, I think, the biggest scam that goes on in funeral service. Those Mickey Mouse funeral homes that are opening storefronts, that put a sign up, and I can't believe Winnipeggers, Manitobans support these people because it's just downgrading funeral service at the highest level possible. There's no continuity of care. There's a sign up that says Joe's Crematorium. Meanwhile, they don't have a crematorium. They don't even have a van to take your loved one into their care from a hospital. They subcontract that out. They subcontract the cremation out. They subcontract the embalming out. They do nothing other than make money because they're the middle people. Ask questions like, do you own and operate a crematorium? Can I come to the crematorium and see my loved one prior to cremation? Ask questions, and then people say, well, there's some funeral homes that offer cremation for $6,500 or $7,500. What's the difference? The difference is compassion and care from us, and offering a truthful service from our hearts, and not trying to be millionaires overnight or pay back shareholders because they're shareholder companies and they're trying to make profits, or pay salespeople.
Little box stores.
Little box stores, yeah. So when you come to Voyage, be assured you're going to get the family touch, experience the Voyage difference. I tell families, and you won't be disappointed. Heather says, they should be charged and lose their license and job. Exactly. And those businesses should not be allowed. In Ontario, good luck trying to open up a funeral home if you don't have the proper facilities. They even go through your advertisement. And Winnipeg, Manitoba needs to toughen up on funeral rules to protect families, because this is all about families. And you know what? You can make all the money in the world. You can't take it with you. So you may as well leave behind a good name, a name that people trusted, a name that stood for good things, than have $1 million in the bank that is useless.
Standard operating procedures that make families, want to come back, right?
Dan Ross says, have a fantastic remainder of the week, folks. See you next week. Good night and God bless. So,
is he closing the show off?
Are you ready to
go home, man? What is going on?
Dan, that's my closing. Jeez. Brad and I aren't done yet. We're getting vaccinated next week. Look at that. Got the needle right there. Just got to get the end of it.
I'm hoping I can find the little vial.
Don't forget to like, share, and follow the show. You know, the show doesn't get a lot of likes for some reason. Brad was saying, wow, you don't get a lot of likes, Mike. You got followers, but you don't get a lot of likes.
It's not that. It's the page. There's the page of the show has followers, but we need page likes as well
Page
to
likes.
up that too, right?
Yeah,
So,
listen to Brad. He's the producer and does all that kind of stuff. Page likes.
I'm just a comedic sidekick.
Don't forget to join us September 18th, 1 o'clock at the Law Courts building. If you care about what's going on in the
Are
city,
you going to be there?
you better believe it. I'm gonna get up and talk, and I'm gonna talk from my heart about my brother Kyriakis, and I want to see this violence come to an end. And not only that, I want to see justice being served.
Me too.
I want to see this go down, and a jail sentence instead of a catch and release. That's what I want to see.
Support victims of violent crime.
Oh, we don't have enough jails. We have to let them out.
Need to end the catch and release programs. It all starts at 1 o'clock on the east side of the Law Courts office on York Avenue. So come on down. We're going to get tough on crime. We're not going to get tough and violent there. We're going to get tough on crime. Our words are going to have to matter.
If we have violence there, we're no different than the people committing these crimes.
That's correct.
You know, this needs to be a peaceful get-together where people share stories and touch people's hearts, and that's just the way it needs to be.
So the individuals, the organizers, are putting together the list of individuals to speak, and we should probably mention that before we wrap up.
Oh, yeah. If you've lost a loved one and to a victim of a crime, there's an email on this.
That's right. It's wewantjusticemb@gmail.com.
So if you want to speak and talk about your story and how you lost a loved one and what you're going through and what it caused in your life, send a message there, and maybe you can get on the mic and tell your story.
We're talking about violent crime.
Violent crimes.
Here. Violent crimes. That's correct.
Debbie says, nighty-night, everyone.
Let's make sure that we're not talking about giving the list of violent crimes, but
no,
there's a fine line to cut off there. What is that cut off part?
I think a violent crime is somebody who was beaten violently and spent lots of time in the hospital, and their life has changed forever and will never be the same again. Somebody who's lost somebody to a murder.
Right.
Those are violent crimes. So somebody who's been affected by
mothers of drunk drivers,
murdered and Indigenous women.
Right.
There's so many that have. Perfect example was today. Somebody getting hit by a bike by a guy who decided to drive through a protest. I mean, that's violent when you do something like that, right? And if that person died, it would have been a whole different situation. So remember, we need to show more love in this world, more care, and more compassion for each other. Love goes a long ways. And there was a song once that said, "Love will keep us together."
Captain and Tennille.
God bless you and your families. Thank you for watching another edition of Ask the Funeral Director. Take care of yourselves and each other. Brad, thank you again for being
Thank you, Mike.
The most amazing host.
As always. Good night, everybody.
Good night, folks. Take care.
See you soon.